Hello everyone, Squared Circle Wrestling is back with another episode which includes major update on CM Punk appearing at AEW Collision. Booker T praises Mandy Rose, hopes she will be back with WWE. WWE Hall of Famer blasts at AEW. WWE legend says he is not surprised Mercedes Money got injured facing AEW star. Konnan calls female AEW star ridiculously hot. Compares her to WWE's Trish Stratus. AEW star says he made 10 times his WWE salary after release. And much more. You can check the complete list with time chapters in the description box below. Before we start, make sure to subscribe to our channel for all the latest news. Our top story for today looks at major update on CM Punk appearing at AEW Collision. A new report has the latest details on CM Punk's discussions with AEW. As reported, Punk was in talks to return to work for the company, although this situation got alarming last week due to the potential return of Ace Steel, as AEW informed Punk that Steel would be working with him, but would not be allowed to tapings, to which Punk disagreed. According to Fightful Select, Punk has remained in contact with AEW over the last week and there have been productive conversations according to those close to Punk, though details were not specific on what that entailed. People close to Punk believe he'll be at AEW Collision on June 17th. It was added, there was a rumor that Punk had been served with legal papers, and sources says that some documents were sent to Punk to be signed over the last week. The site was told the papers covered speaking about certain subjects, disparagement clauses, and making sure Punk appears at scheduled TV dates. There's no indication that the papers were legal threats. They are said to have been mostly to protect AEW in regard to several potential situations. Continuing, AEW has yet to announce the location for the first AEW Collision, and the site notes that as of last week they weren't told that Daly's Place was being explicitly discussed as a backup location to the United Center in Chicago. However, they were told that there were places besides the United Center being talked about. Talent have not yet been given their travel info for the first Collision date. Next up, Booker T praises Mandy Rose, hopes she will be back with WWE. As the commentator for WWE NXT brand, Booker T had a front row seat for much of Mandy Rose's NXT Women's Championship run, before she was released late last year due to her private content being leaked. Speaking on his The Hall of Fame podcast, former world champion shared his hope that the company will bring Rose back at some point in the future. He said, "The question is, would you like to see Mandy Rose back in WWE? Me personally, I would. Main roster or NXT, I really don't care. I just hope she gets a chance to get back in there and prove that she still can be one of the best." WWE released Mandy Rose from her contract in December 2022, with the company citing the NXT star's sexual content posted to her subscription-based FanTime account. Rose recently stated she wasn't sure what the future held for her regarding a return to WWE, leaving the door open for an eventual return without confirming anything. Next up, WWE considering making third hour of Raw more adult. WWE is said to be considering making the third hour of WWE Raw more adult each week. WrestleNomics Brandon Thurston tweeted quotes from WWE CEO Nick Khan speaking at JP Morgan's TMT conference today. He posted, "Raw is 3 hours. We don't anticipate that changing. They're in discussions about what to do with the 10-11 p.m. hour, whether to make it more adult. Adult-themed content was major success for the company back in its Attitude Era. Would you like to see WWE getting back to the adult roots? Let us know in the comments below." Next up, Cody Rhodes almost returned to WWE without his Kingdom entrance theme. Zach Call, the lead singer of Downstate, revealed in a new interview with Chris Van Vliet that there were some legal issues regarding bringing the Kingdom song on WWE. However, Rhodes addressed these issues by insisting that he would not return to WWE without the song. "I don't want to give away too much about how Cody Rhodes was able to use Kingdom in WWE. But we were aware that Kingdom was coming and we were in a little bit of a legal battle and Cody Rhodes is absolutely the F-ing man. We were on the phone with lawyers and agents and WWE's lawyers and composers before, and we have been with them since 2009. And we all have regular jobs. And we just wanted our cut of the pie on this one. We know what happens when we're not Joan Jett, we're not Living Color, but when you use a real song, they get paid, those artists get paid. It's not a part of WWE's work. And this is a song that we wrote. It was pretty close to it, Rhodes having another theme for his return. And then Cody, we held our silence for a little bit and I'd said my piece and my heart is in my throat and not ready to give up the song. You know, I've worked so hard on the song, we worked so hard on the song." And Cody just basically breaks the silence and he goes, "Well, you don't get me without Kingdom on this conference call. Alright." And he swore up and down right when he started using it that, "If I go back to WWE, I am taking Kingdom with me." And I mean, he's been nothing but truthful with us the whole time. But you never know. When it comes down to the moment, you never know what's going to happen. And about 2 weeks before we have this big make or break moment, it might have been 2 seconds of silence. It might not have been the 10 that's in my brain right now. It might have been 2 hours. Next up, WWE Hall of Famer blasts at AEW. WWE Hall of Famer Eric Bischoff on the Strictly Business podcast made clear how much bad wrestling there is in AEW, and even singled out Jungle Boy for some criticism. He spoke, "They failed on that cause. 80% of the in-ring presentation is less than the Jungle Boy silly nonsense. I mean, there's so much bad wrestling in AEW, they don't care about that. As long as they get their blood, or as long as they get one thing that they're looking for." He added, "If you take your emotions out of it or your, in my opinion, I don't want to say loyalty, but if you take off your fan glasses and just look at the product objectively, the in-ring presentation is not better than, in my opinion." You may feel differently, cool, and fans may feel differently. But for me, I look at that. If I would have done some of the stuff I'm seeing currently in AEW or have seen recently in AEW, if I would have done some of that in WCW, WCW would have been trashed. Next up, Legend blasts at WWE for LA Knight and Karrion cross booking. In the recent episode of Keepin' It 100, wrestling legend Konnan questioned the WWE's current booking of talent like LA Knight and Karrion Kross. He spoke about LA Knight's booking. "I don't know why you'd have a guy, when it's so hard to get people over, who is over, and you haven't even pushed him. There's so many great things you can do to make money with him, why you wouldn't take advantage of him and try to take his knees out. And I could see him as Universal Champion, and if they gave him a proper push like we've seen them do when they want to, why not World Champ?" He also brought up the way Kross is booked on the main roster. "You know the type of employees you have, and Kross is not the type that has heat. He's a model employee, he's the type of guy you want. He has ideas. He's not just waiting around for you to give him ideas. He stays in shape. He's sharp on his promos and his character. Yeah, he's not one of these AJ Styles, but he can still go. He's just one good storyline away from exploding." Next up, details on what Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus signed on WWE Raw. The rivalry between Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus has gotten very personal as of late, with the Hall of Famer Trish mentioning Lynch's daughter. Fightful Select has released the contract details signed by Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus ahead of their match at Night of Champions pay-per-view. To whom it may concern, this document shall serve as a legal and binding agreement amongst all parties scheduled for the Becky Lynch vs. Trish Stratus match, to be held at the Night of Champions premium live event, to be held on Saturday, May 27, 2023, at the Jeddah Superdome, Saudi Arabia. The contract also mentioned that the company will not be responsible for any injuries sustained during the match. The parties hereby agree to save hold harmless and indemnify WWE Network, and its affiliates from any liability regarding injuries that may or may not occur during the course of this exhibition. The winner of the match hereby assigns all publicity rights to WWE Network, and its affiliates in regard to the Becky Lynch vs. Trish Stratus match at Night of Champions on May 27, 2023. This contract is drawn in the state of Connecticut, and all laws of Connecticut shall apply to its execution, arbitration, or contest. Next up, WWE legend says he is not surprised Mercedes Moné got injured facing AEW star. WWE Hall of Famer Booker T stated that he was not surprised that Mercedes Moné injury took place in the match against AEW star Willow Nightingale, considering the exceptionally high work rate wrestlers perform at today. He said, "These young guys today, they are so over the top. They can do just about anything, and they are willing to push themselves just about as far as they possibly can go. So I'm not surprised or anything like that. Just bad timing." He added, "Just bad timing for Moné because she's, right now, talk of the town. Everybody's, talking about money, and then you got a broken ankle. That's your wheel right there. That's your base. You have to take some time off. You're going to have to stay off of it in order for it to heal. So I'm sure she's going to be looking at 3 to 6 months, easy." Next up, Konnan calls female AEW star ridiculously hot, compares her to WWE's Trish Stratus. In the recent Keepin' It 100 podcast, wrestling legend Konnan talked about the JAS member Anna Jay's recent no-holds-barred match on AEW Dynamite against Julia Hart. The legend gave out a little criticism of Jay's performance in recent matches. He then compared her to WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus, but in the sense that both superstars were not believable as heels. Anna is ridiculously hot, but sometimes her selling is bad. She doesn't know how to work the crowd. She has zero heel mannerisms. She's like a what's a girl in WWE. Trish. She's like Trish, she's not believable. Next up, backstage details on 2 missing WWE stars. 2 stars who seem to be missing from weekly programming are Los Lotharios, Angel and Humberto. The 2 have only been involved in 3 televised matches so far this year. According to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, it's not that the team have done anything wrong, just that they have slipped down the pecking order. They're low on the pecking order, and I think that's pretty much it. They're there, but they just don't do anything with them, and they're talented guys too. WWE's got a lot of talented guys, and some of them are. It's always going to be a case where some of them just aren't used, and I mean WWE, but AEW is the same way. There are talented guys in all that don't do a lot. Also, there are lots and lots of guys on rosters more than There are more talented guys on rosters, and there are spots that are pushed. So there's going to be people like that, and they could send him to NXT, I suppose. And that's not necessarily the worst idea. But right now they're kind of just, like a lot of guys, there's just guys that are there. Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, just guys that are there, they're on the roster, and they just don't do anything with. Next up, Kurt Angle reveals WWE feud he absolutely regrets. WWE Hall of Famer Kurt Angle speaking on his The Kurt Angle Show podcast, reflected on the feud, feeling that using Booker T and his wife Sharmell in an angle was the worst creative chance Vince McMahon and co took with him. He said, "I totally regret it. I didn't want any part of it. Even though I got to wrestle Booker, I'd rather not wrestle Booker than do what I had to do with Sharmell." Next up, AEW star says he made 10 times his WWE salary after release. Colt Cabana on a recent episode of Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw shed light on his decision of joining WWE in 2007. He said, "I knew it was an investment in my future. That's the only place you can make millions of dollars. So I went to OVW for a year and I got over. I wasn't set up to have the best situation when I got called up to the main roster, so I had 6 matches of losing very quickly. But it led to the most success I've ever had in my career, which was my post-WWE career where I made 10 times what I made in WWE. And that is all for today's news. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel Squared Circle Wrestling for all the latest updates.